Yo, this is Remy Marcel, the 86er, and you're watching Drinking at Moe's.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Drinking at Moe's. Your host, Big Mo here. I am excited because, oftentimes I am talking with people for the show that I haven't actually met. Today, I'm talking with one that I actually have. Remy, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing the last name here, Marcel. I feel like shit.
Don't worry about it, bro. It's Remy Marcel. Don't worry, Dave Marquez gave me that last name a long time ago, so it's all good. But I have no emotional ties to it, other than I've just had it for my whole entire career, pretty much. Yeah.
But first thing I like to ask everybody is, what got you started as a fan, and then what got you started wanting to make the jump into the business?
Sure. I guess like my first wrestling match I ever saw like on television was the Heart Foundation versus Demolition. So this has been a time-tested story that I've told. I love tag wrestling. So when I first got into loving pro wrestling, my favorite was tag team pro wrestling. It had nothing to do with the singles. I mean, I love singles wrestling too. Like, obviously, Macho Man and Ricky the Dragon had one of the best matches ever. But what really stole the show for me on Mania, that was the Bulldogs and Heart Foundation that night. And I've always gravitated more towards tag wrestling because I'm kind of a sucker for a lot of moving parts and a lot of like mechanics and people that really have a good art form for it. It's awesome. So that's essentially what got me into like kind of really liking pro wrestling. And that was like my first match I ever saw. So it was dope.
Okay. What got you like finally wanting to jump into the business? Like finally you got of age and was just like, you know what, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So me and my buddy, we really liked pro wrestling since we were like high school kids, right? So everybody was Monday Night Raw into Nitro. So that Monday, nobody did homework. Everybody watched wrestling, at least where I was kind of the circles I was running in.
I was guilty of that myself.
Yeah. So I always wanted to do it as far as like I give it a try. But there was no wrestling schools, especially here in Vegas. There wasn't anything like substantial. But when I kind of went through high school and graduated, I really wasn't doing any college or any of that stuff. And my folks at the time, they were kind of splitting, they're separating. So the best way to deal with that as a young man was obviously throw yourself into something that you always wanted to do, right? So I started to follow the dream of being a pro wrestler because we went to a local show here in Vegas and you couldn't charge for it. Everything was free because they needed an athletic commission. That was kind of like the whole gist of Vegas. So we went to a free show and Nick Bockwinkel was there that night. He just kind of pulled us aside and was like, if you guys are really serious, I'll train you and give you just basically like a couple days a week in the ring. So obviously at the time we had no like, I didn't really have like an income. I would think I might have been working at like a retail store at the time or whatever. So my buddy, he was like, well, I think what would be cool is if we tried to do this for real. So we went to the gym and started working out for about a year. And then we went back. We still went to the local shows, but we never really got into it. At the time, Nick was kind of on his way out, and there was a guy whose name was Scott Casey. His claim to fame was he's kind of like a job guy, but not really like enhancement for San Antonio, but he trained Booker T. So he was there a lot. And so while we got in with Nick was kind of on his way out, and Scott was kind of like the formal trainer at the time. So when we broke in, Scott kind of gave us the runaround with like the basics, but me and my buddy, we just knew that the school was kind of like not legit. So he found a thing online with ROH. They were doing a kind of like a DVD series. It was called like Secrets of the Ring, and they were doing Liger, and Liger was coming to Santa Monica, and Santa Monica's only 4 hours away. So me and my buddy, we jumped in a car, and we went to the Liger seminar at the Njpw school, and then they invited. We were like the only outsiders, the only Americans to go, and the only outside of the school. So they invited us back, and that's kind of how I broke into pro wrestling. Is like I went to the seminar, and then they asked us back, and then we went back. At the time, Rocky was was there. Rocky Romero, he was like the kind of the head trainer, but he was being sent to Japan to do some IWGP junior weight stuff, and the person they were sending over was Nakamura. So Nakamura was my trainer there for like the first 9 months I was in the New Japan school. Yeah, so that's kind of like how I broke into pro wrestling. Was just kind of watched it, loved it, and then it just kind of blew up into like, oh, this is what I'm going to end up doing. Yep.
Oh yeah, I mean one hell of a way to kind of break in there with some of the names you were bringing up, like Bockwinkel, Liger, Rocky Romero, Nakamura. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, it was like I was fortunate enough to just kind of be at the right place at the right time, except I was definitely the wrong size and the wrong person, right? Like now young and like kind of not big or not 6 foot is okay, you know, like you were in this business, it's changed quite a bit, you know, like when I first broke in, it wasn't like that. Everybody wanted the pro athlete that was 6'6" and, you know, John Cena kind of esque thing, which at the time that we were going to the dojo, he was more into already kind of on way, like he was already like in WWE, but we got like Samoa Joe and everybody else that was coming through. That was like a kind of like a SoCal. We got Frankie Kazarian and Chris Daniels came through. So it was just kind of like we lucked out while being at the right place at the right time for training. It was awesome.
Oh yeah. I mean, you talk about some of the SoCal guys. A lot of the people here in Omaha, like especially at the indie shows, I don't think they realize that like a lot of the fans here are either, you know, AEW, WWE, like, or local independent shows, which I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But me, I got started, my first ever independent shows was when I was in the Navy down in San Diego, and I just one day decided I wanted to see what was out there, and I just Googled pro wrestling in San Diego, and before you know it, I'm watching a guy that now runs Santino's down there.
Joey Chaos.
Yeah.
So Santino's has been producing some like fucking studs, bro, out of their school. Yeah. Like they have like one of the more legit schools on the West Coast. But it's funny because my very first show in when we went out to California, the only person that would book us was Adam Pierce, and he was running out of San Diego. So he was running these like spot shows that were kind of it was in the San Diego YMCA. Basketball, but then there's like the rafters up top, right? And this shit was fucking hilarious. But we drew all right, but Pierce was the only one who ever really kind of gave me a chance to work because he didn't hate the little guy, right? He thought we were all pretty legit. And then again, we were coming from the dojo, so he knew our pedigree was definitely there. And it's funny, we came full circle too, because later on, Pierce, before he got the job with WWE, like he was working a lot of independents, but he was working one of the Portland ones that we were also working a lot. And me and his Pierce is always like this weird I don't know how to say, like Godfather is kind of the best way to describe him, because he's kind of like this mysterious guy who's always had this like authority figure. Because when the dojo shut down, which it did, like I didn't know what I was going to do as far as pro wrestling. So my family is all from New Jersey. And so I moved back to New Jersey. I had no idea what the fuck to do, bro. I was just like, I got to go. I guess I'm just going to go back home. So when I went back to New Jersey, the only place that I could go to that wasn't, because it was really hard to get booked, was the ROH school. And so I would go to the ROH school, and they would have me come down to do these dark matches for HDNet. And Pierce was running Gorilla, and he was running a lot of the producing, man. So I got to see just that dude a lot in my career, but he's fucking marvelous, man.
Oh
He's
yeah.
really, really smart with the business, really intelligent. And I mean, the Midwest is a good place too. You guys all have we all have our people,
Yeah.
like
Mm-hmm.
I think you guys have this like weird thing where you had all these great talents who really haven't got to show a lot of it, right? Chicago's just now kind of
Mm-hmm.
with Dreamwave and
Yeah.
AEW, they're just now starting to kind of get like that combustion. But a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people don't know who Christian Rose is, who's a great fucking heel, or Matt
Yeah.
Cage was.
Yeah.
Matt Cage was, did a little bit of stuff, but like if Matt Cage was wrestling now, like it'd be far different. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the things that was kind of hindering him or being pushed down or not getting the
Yeah.
exposure, nobody gives a shit about anymore, right? Like
Yeah.
he's a fucking fantastic worker, and like his style was always just like so I don't know, like on that next level shit to where like he could have easily been in PWG or any of these like really big time shows. He could definitely be on AEW Dark and whatever else goes on with it. And now you're starting to see that too with like Warhorse, man. Like I remember like we wrestled those guys and he wasn't even nearly as a big or personality. He was just plain Jane kind of dude. I mean, he still had like he knew the business and was a great worker, but man, Warhorse is a fucking amazing now, bros. Seeing that dude a couple of years later, oh, dude. So I mean, you guys have everybody has their people that come from it,
Oh yeah, no, and I mean, Warhorse in particular, I was just meeting him again when my show got invited to the Warrior Wrestling show in St. Louis. I was a part of the fan fest and everything. Got to be around him again. And you bring up Adam Pearce. When I was in San Diego, I got to see him a handful of times back when he was the NWA champ. He'd
wrestled championship wrestling for him.
And I believe the one I saw him the most at was at SoCal Pro that was out of Oceanside. And man, so like you said, Midwest, we got some good talent. And I mean, West Coast, I got exposed to a lot of great stuff out there. One of the guys that's still one of my absolute favorites, and the guy I actually bought my first ever independent wrestling shirt from, B-Boy.
Hell yeah. Well, bro, he's got a crazy school now because he's running a school out of San Diego, right? And then the level up school's got like, yeah, bro, those guys are fucking phenomenal, man. And a lot of them are just now getting highlighted because Benny's kind of getting his name out there again, right? Yep. So this motherfucker is a crazy motherfucker. He comes back from a fucking, I know, but he comes back from this like Achilles heel injury, right? Which is supposed to take you off for like 9 months. Comes back, he's like, man, I'm gonna fucking go hard. Gets all the GCW notoriety, which again, a lot of people forget how long he's been doing it, and now he's got like these really like young up and coming guys, like Jordan Cruz or the Backwoods Brawler, bro. Dude, like they can go deathmatch, they can do everything, bro. So I don't know, man. I think like we have on the West a lot of good schools because now a lot of guys are kind of settling themselves into whatever it is. And Benny's he does like a really good job with the level up guys. There's another dude out here. He's very pro, like he works with Benny, but they're pro cannabis. Like they have a cannabis show, right? It's called Canna Pro. And the dude's like really, really smart, but he's like throws these really great fucking shows where they work together. So that's kind of how I got introduced by the level up people. I went down to a joint show and I got to see their students, man. And again, the Santino brothers, the level up school. I want to say there's an Oregon school, like a Portland, Oregon school that is kind of running. They might be out of like Salem though. I'm not sure exactly where, but we're getting a lot of like good people coming out of the West, whether it's the Pacific Northwest or SoCal or NorCal. NorCal's kind of making a bang too with West Coast. Have you seen the West Coast pro shows? Like those guys are
have.
phenomenal. And then Hood Slam, of course, obviously, but guys like Alpha Zoe and like Kenny K5. Like Kenny K5 is like this really crazy dude, you would never think that he'd be so athletic, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of talent on this. I mean, and then of course Sheik runs the fucking West Coast
Mm.
because she's crazy, you know, like all with the
Oh yeah.
GCW stuff, and then Titus Alexander, which is like NorCal's guy. He was his name was Big Ugly at the time, but he did like a lot of Portland things, but it's like his kid. And so I think there's a ton of talent coming out of the West. And then you have Vegas, man. Our scene alone, I think FSW stands up against anybody, but our talent alone can probably go against a lot of rosters and be okay.
Oh yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I remember when I first got exposed to FSW was when they had a little bit of a working relationship with Fully Loaded out of North Dakota. And then I met you up at Fully Loaded, and then you went over with FSW, and that's when I started kind of keeping up with what they were doing. I'm like, okay, this is some good shit.
The Fully Loaded guy, his name was Aaron Barclay, man. He was one of the best promoters I've ever worked for, bro. Very, very like, he just treated you well, and he was very understanding about a lot of things. And he always kind of let us have free reign or any of that stuff, because he knew we could kind of do our thing, but he never really put anything any restraints on us, right? Whenever we do a show, he was like, oh, it's pretty cool. So it was very easy to go to him and be like, hey, would you like to do like a working relationship with FSW, since both teams are kind of down there? And then we could kind of maybe cause a buzz to kind of like, I don't know, wrestle for the Fully Loaded Tag Championships down there. And he thought it was great, man. I mean, he really got into a lot of it. And it's unfortunate that Fully Loaded didn't stick around for longer periods of time. I know it's kind of hard with that town. Minot's really tough because it's an oil town, right? So there's not a whole lot to do. And I don't know how many people really knew about what pro wrestling was out of the Vegas. It wasn't like the Vegas was like the most amazing hotel. However, I thought the venue held pro wrestling well, right? And then they ended up doing like this really crazy number when they brought Booker T in, bro. When they brought Booker T in, like we did like, I think it was like 400 people at this place, and I was super surprised about it. I was like, damn, man, this is actually not a bad crowd tonight. Again, all the talent that goes into that Fully Loaded crew. You had Stephen King guy that is that his name, right? I'm gonna butcher his name. I'm bad about names, dude. I'm so sorry.
But you got it right.
The chainsaw, and like I thought he was one of the more eccentric personalities I've ever met on the indie scene. So I couldn't, and he's a big dude, so I couldn't understand why he wasn't signed. But he ended up telling me that he had a lot of like good, I guess, like tryouts or stints with higher companies. So it was just kind of crazy to see that Fully Loaded could bring a lot of like good talent to the show in like a little city called Minot, North Dakota. If you were ever going to tell me, bro, like as a kid growing up in Vegas that I would wrestle in Minot, North Dakota, I would have told you out of your fucking mind.
Yeah, before I went, the show that I met you at was actually in Fargo.
Yeah, Fargo. Because we did Detroit Lakes.
That same weekend. And I remembered, especially with Mr. Barkley there, I remember when I went, I had heard, he had told me when the Fargo show was, and, you know, I had been meaning to go, and I'm like, you know what, Fargo, since it's looking like I'm going to be driving by myself, Fargo's a little bit better of a drive for me than all the way up to Minot. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to that one. And then before I know it, I'm getting offered to be the special guest ring announcer for my friend's match at the Fargo portion of the weekend. It was, damn it, I'm trying to remember who they were facing, but it was Guns and Beer. My guys, Duke Cornell was actually the one there that weekend, and I was just like, holy shit, I'm actually getting to do this.
Yeah. I think we wrestled Electric Muscle, Dojo Muscle, which was like Matt Nix and oh fuck, I forgot his name off the top of my head. Fuck.
If I looked it up, I can.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But that's how we met Matt Nix, or at least got to chat with him. And I didn't even know about like freelance in Chicago. And like when we did that weekend, he ended up bringing us up for freelance, and we had a nice little Midwest tour as the Whirlwind Gentlemen, because we did we did freelance for a second, which was a big show, and then we did WrestlePalooza after we did 3XW. So that shit was fucking wild, bro. I've never done anything like a WrestlePalooza before, bro. And
I've heard their shows are rather wild.
Oh, it's some of the best. When you think of pro wrestling, I always wanted it to be like that, because obviously it's like they're like 1,000 people like rabid. They're fucking crazy for wrestling, so they pop on everything. But Cannon, fucking genius that he is, and a fucking goddamn sweetheart, man, right? He had us booked in there with the Prof, which was like an underground rap artist at the time, right? And we did like a thing with the musical act for that, and the people went ballistic, and Darren Corbin was like the big heater for the night, right? And obviously everybody loves fucking Darren Corbin when whether he's being fucking good or funny or and at this point a fucking goddamn heel, bro. It was brilliant. We got so much fucking heat, bro. It was insane, and it was all Corbin too, bro. We were just there along for the ride. It was awesome. But I love Minnesota, bro. I love Chicago. I love that whole area, man, because the wrestling is like rich there, you know, like they get it and they understand it, and they can appreciate your work.
Yeah, no, that is definitely true. And you brought up one of the tag team names that you've been under. I remember, I forget how long ago this was now, when I saw a little bit of a switch. I forget if it was before you went over to China, which we'll actually talk about here in a little bit, but you have also been under the 86ers, which I thought was a rather interesting little gimmick there with it reminded me a lot of, I'm wanting to say, like if you mix like a gangsterish with like Hitman, like it almost seemed like a mix of both.
Yeah, that all came about because while we were in Vegas, we all were just kind of fishing for something more to do. Like me and Jack, we had been the Whirlwind Gentlemen for like a real long time. And so in Vegas, it was kind of like, well, we thought about changing it up, thought about not being so good guys and maybe trying to steer towards being a bad guy. At the time, we were trying to get jobs with ROH because they were here for the weekend, right? So it was me and Kevin and Jack Cross and Jack Manley. So we were going down to try to get jobs, and it's real. I wouldn't say like, it's just like that hot, like, you know, when you go in for a job interview, right? And there's like a million motherfuckers who are there for the same job, and you're just kind of like, all right, well, let's get this going, right? So it's awkward, like trying to get noticed and everything like that. And for the most part, they didn't give us the time or day for anything. And I was right, they shouldn't, you know, they have a big show and whatever. And the boys were great. Like all the wrestlers were fantastic, but it was just who you had to impress and who you had to go to the office. It was really, really hard to kind of get noticed, right? So you had this weird awkward thing. So we went out to the parking lot to talk about it, feeling kind of low about it. And we're just like, man, fuck this. So we thought I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we just fucking, you know, did some other crazy shit and, you know, again, bullshitting around and just kind of licking our wounds and talking shit. Like me, Kevin, and Jack came up with this idea that we'd do this like Goodfellas promo where it would be the camera would be in the trunk. And so, and then we were just like piled it, and then we were just like, well, what do we be called? We were like, man, we'll just be called the 86ers, man. And we'll just fucking leave everybody 8 miles out and 6 feet deep.
Mhm.
And so it just kind of started there. And then at the time, Joe was gearing Kevin to be the world champion. So he had to get it off of Ricker or Eli Drake, or I don't even Max Dupree. Yeah, whatever. But anyway, but Sean Ricker was the champion at the time, and Sean was fucking awesome, bro. But he was going away again. He was going to get signed, and so they had to get it into Kevin's hands. So what ended up happening was we went through this series where the Scum were also turning heel, the Reno Scum. So they were hanging out with Sean. And so Kevin had to have friends, and Kevin really didn't have the Whirlwind Gentlemen as friends, right? But he did have the 86ers as friends. So we thought we'd change up the look there. I just went wife beater and jeans, and then Jack went into kind of like a Michael Myers Undertaker kind of feel, right? It took me a while to kind of talk him into doing the wife beater with me because we ended up doing the wife beater one night. But it was good enough to where Joe let us have another run with the tag belts. Like we were able to get another tag championship run at FSW. But kind of like early on into that run, we got approached about going to China. Now, me and Jack, we did a WWE loop where you go in, you do extra work, and then you try out. And so during the tryout, we fucking shit the bed, bro. Like it was horrendous. So we were out there, and we fucking it was like the worst shit ever. So we're feeling pretty low about ourselves about it. But everybody was like, "Oh man, it was okay, no problem." But you know how it is, bro. You're trying to. This is your job. You're trying to get the fucking job. So we come back home, and I coach at FSW. So my next day is we're home on Wednesday, and my next day is go right into coaching on Thursday, right? So I went to coach Thursday, and a guy who works for the Cirque shows out here, he worked for Ka, he came in and was like, hey, my brother's going to start a wrestling company out in China. Would you guys be interested in coming over to coach? And Jack wasn't there at the time. It was just me, but I was like, fuck yeah, man. I mean, absolutely, right? And he was just like, well, when can you come? And I was like, man, we could go tomorrow if you want. Because I just had these mediocre jobs, and I was kind of living off of pro wrestling at the time. And the guy was like, okay, well, let's get your visas and everything. And 2 weeks later, I was on a fucking plane to China. So when we showed up to China, we were all gearing ourselves towards this one big show. And so when we had our gimmicks out there, we dressed up in our gimmicks, and they were like, oh, this is way too much good. The way the Chinese people saw it is we were foreigners, so we had to be bad guys or antagonists. So they came up with these like sketchbooks, and these sketchbooks had all these elaborate fucking costumes on it. But when it came to me and Jack, as we turned the page, Jack is literally Triple H, and I'm Stone Cold, right? That's literally how they fucking drew us, except Stone Cold, I still had kind of an afro at the time. So Stone Cold had this like afro, but I'm in a leather vest and fucking jean shorts and a goddamn fucking knee brace. There's no fucking joke, bro. I'm not kidding at all. So me and Jack look at each other. We're just like, there's no way we could fucking do this. But of course we said, okay, no problem. Let's see your costumes. So when we finally got the costumes, it was horrendous. I mean, all these Chinese kids had these like great fucking costumes. And here me and Jack have these like, they were bad. Jack didn't even have a leather jacket. They gave me a leather vest. And we had these like really bad MMA tights that they got for us. Yeah. We were just like, no. So they were like, well, what do you want to do? And so we came up with this idea of I pretty much showed them like a mixture between like a gangster kind of 20s thing, and then low key, right? Which was like the fucking gun holsters, and he had the tie and everything like that. But me and Jack were gonna just kind of make it our own, and we didn't there because they gave us ties and everything like that. They pretty much took everything that we gave them from Loki and was like, here you go. So they gave us these really cool like wool jackets and all this stuff, and then they just kind of was like, well, because I was from New Jersey and Jack is from Alaska, they didn't call us the 86ers. They were calling us the Legends from New York. And so we would go all over China being the Legends from New York, but obviously we were the 86ers, or at least a little bit of a rendition of it.
Yeah.
And then home, and Jack was like, all right, think I'm done with pro wrestling for a while. So when I didn't know what to go back to, I'd already buzzed my head. I had already had this like 86er kind of guy going. I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to drop the thing, just wear the wife beater or wear the gun holsters. And then I'm going to, any inspiration that I'm pulling from, it's going to be like, I just thought to myself, what would Quentin Tarantino, if he wrote a pro wrestler, what would that motherfucker look like? And that's what I went with. Yeah. So, because Tarantino's like my favorite, right? So I was like, if he made a pro wrestler, what does that pro wrestler look like? And then I just started stealing like little things from here and there, like a little bit of Joe Pesci, a little bit of Vegas. Like the 86 was a very Vegas terminology, right?
Yeah.
So then you just kind of have to, pile it on. And again, Joe was brilliant enough to let me kind of he was like, what do you want to do? And obviously I thought the 86er was going to be a heel because it was something different, but I just wanted to be over. I just like, Joe, just let me see if I can get over with it. And if I do, then we'll go one way. If I don't, we'll go another way. And Vegas is always going to be my hometown. So they were cheering me here. But if I went to like Arizona, I was getting booed until I started going a lot. And then I was getting cheered because of I think it's because of my work, right? The way I wrestled, like, it's kind of hard to be like, oh, this dude. But also like, I don't really go out there to garner heat. And especially this guy or this rendition of me is not really a shut your mouth kind of thing. It's more of just an aggressive guy. We went babyface, and then me and Joe had this idea where I was going to become the only Grand Slam champion of FSW, but we had a working relationship with Marquez. And so me and at the time, Joe really wanted Greg Sharp or Hyperstreak at the time to become like this like finals at prime time. And this was during COVID. So we were gonna do this show, and it was gonna be this thing, and then it just fell apart. So then Greg was like, all right, man, well, I kind of want a name change. I kind of want to do something different. Let's go ahead and do this match. And I was like, cool, we'll kill Hyperstreak and you can come back somebody completely different. At the time, nobody had pulled back the apron or the padding, so the exposed wood, even though like a lot of people have done that, nobody's done it in Vegas. So it was something different that nobody's seen me or him do. And I was like, is that cool with you? And he was like, yeah, bro, I think that would be a fucking dope ass way to kind of elevate this to a whole new thing. He had an idea of how he wanted to be repackaged, and he came back fucking a million times better. I mean, G's always been like fucking dope in the ring, like, whether it's Hyperstreak or whatever he's doing, but Greg now has reached pinnacle stuff, and his look and his gear and everything about him screams like just another level. And so we did like a silent Cold War feud for a year, which nobody has ever done in FSW, and then we blew it off like a week or two ago in this like no holds barred thing. So it was cool, man. It's been a cool little ride to be the 86er. I think we're about 3-4 years into it now.
Yeah. No, I was always curious. Thank you for telling all that, because I was always curious about like the origins of the 86ers and how going over there to China and everything was. I was very interesting hearing one of the other promotions when I was kind of doing my homework for the episode. I guess I hadn't really realized that you did some work there with, I guess when there was that Global Force Wrestling TNA little mashup there.
Yeah. It was, so what ended up happening is during that time we were signed to not an exclusive deal, but there was a kind of like a little promotion that's kind of like Defy and all these other cool little promotions now that are kind of getting a lot of notoriety, but it was called Paragon Pro Wrestling. And the guy was Yeah, the guy was out of Portland, Oregon. He was running the WCWC, but he wanted to do something completely different. So he scooped up like a lot of guys. And at the time that we were first putting everything together, like D'Lo Brown was writing and performing, and Matt Stryker was writing and performing, and Gangrel writing and performing. So, I mean, you had the who's who of people who were like not only performing, but also writing and agenting and doing a lot of the stuff in the back. So you thought this promotion could possibly blow the fuck up, right? So they did a lot of these shows out of what at the first time it was called the Texas here, but it was a terrible, not a venue, like the venue was pretty cool, but it was a terrible location. So then they moved it to Sam's Town, and once Paragon got into Sam's Town, it pretty much blew the door open for everybody. So you started seeing Impact and ROH all start to use that venue. And to his credit, it was Joe out of FSW was the first one to use the venue. And it's a beautiful fucking venue, bro.
Oh, yeah.
But once Paragon got in there, it was like, okay, this is how the TV is going to look. And they had this really impressive production company out of Florida. It's ran by Jared Gannum, but it was called like FSHD or something like that. But essentially it's Jared Gannum and is a production. And he has like, he was a kind of a developmental guy. He had like a little bit of a developmental stint in Deep South, but his real talent was trying to produce and be a director for television. And he was brilliant, man. He made some really cool television out of the venue, and especially for us, because we would go in there and film 8 weeks of television in 2 days. So you would go in there and you would have 8 weeks, all 8 weeks planned out. This is what your matches are. So you go in and do some matches, and the crowd got 2 days of 4-hour shows. And so we did the Texas, and then obviously Sam's Town, and then everybody blew up in Sam's Town. So then at the time, Global Force was coming in, and I believe, I don't want to listen. I'm not trying to say nothing, but obviously it was a money weird grab with Jared. It was kind of crazy. So, but when they came here, they just needed a tag team to put over the Bollywood Boys. And so that was who their bread and butter was the Bollywood Boys. And I love those guys. But another time that me and Jack had a great opportunity and shat the bed with them. So we fucked up the international spot there too. And not that the people gave us shit, but once you kind of do that, it's always like a cringeworthy fuck. So, but the Bollywood Boys ended up going over both on us and the Scum, and it was just weird because it was done in they were baby faces and done in what seemingly was the hometown of both those teams. Like us as a Whirlwind Gentlemen and the Reno Scum in Las Vegas, like as tag teams. I don't know, man. The people were kind of weird, and you could sit there and tell me that Global had brought in fans that didn't know who we were, but I seriously doubt that. It was our city, man. So when they beat us, it was all right. But like the minute they beat the Scum, the people were like, "What the fuck?" So we did that one time. Global Force. Jacob Austin Young filled in for Kenny King at that night, and he ended up being redacted. Joey Ryan's fucking tag partner at the time, and they were doing like a Chippendale kind of thing, but they were also pretty much getting manhandled for the evening. So Global Force just kind of came in and built these guys who eventually went on to do bigger and better things. Like their big push was Kevin and what's the guy's name in TNA, or he's the NWA, he was the NWA champion, Nick Aldis. Nick. So like that was like, it was like Nick Aldis and Bobby Roode and Kevin Cross. These were all the guys who Global Force was definitely trying to like highlight them. We were just kind of there to enhance the product.
That was a rather weird time for the whole now Impact brand. I mean, they're now doing pretty damn good things. Like I like to think a lot of people are kind of sleeping on them, but I mean, they, as far as the promotions that are on a national TV level, they put on a pretty consistent product. If you ask me, there's just unfortunately not too many people that get the channel that they're on.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of it has to do with like the roster before versus the roster now, right? And then a lot of
Yeah.
it now is drastically different.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have a homegrown kid on there, Chris Bay, and
Mm.
he along with Trey you could probably just start shouting a lot of them out that are just a way different. But I guess a lot of it for me becomes this thing where there's like this you like I want to say metaverse of pro wrestling now, right? With Tony
Yeah.
Khan's thing, and so you have
Yeah.
Tony Khan's thing where every other promotion is kind of following under that umbrella of AEW, and then you have WWE, and so um, I think when you start highlighting these great other people or these other talents, you're going to start to see not so much of a break because I thought the best product overall at the time was ROH as far as pro wrestling went, right?
Oh,
And
oh yeah.
then and then All Out happened, and then they whatever craziness happened after that. But then it seemed like the cool part of ROH left, which then started AEW. So okay,
Yeah.
so now that's cool, and ROH is kind of left with some bare bones guys. Not that it's not good, but because I
It,
really enjoy Jonathan Grissom, like that dude's
oh
fucking
yeah.
amazing. But a lot of other guys won't get the notoriety. Like the
It,
Briscoes are amazing people, right? And they
mm-hmm.
go out there and have bangers. Bandito and fucking Rush or Roosh, and I guess Kenny's
Mm-hmm.
still around for them. You know what I'm saying? So I like all of the generations that is going along with all that stuff, but
Oh yeah.
these are what's happening in our business or our industry. It's just a little bit different. That's all.
No, yeah, no, totally. One thing I like before I get to my two categories that I round off the show with, what is a day in the life like for you for like, I don't know, outside wrestling stuff? Like, I know for me, a lot of the things outside of doing stuff for the show, I collect a lot of autographs from like wrestlers I've met. Oh, I got some signed ring worn Alex Cologne kick pads that I'm rather proud of. I got
Sure.
I got a bunch of music autographs. Like and I'm rather proud of this one. And if I if I don't get cremated when I pass, they're probably going to have to bury me with the damn thing. I went to a Dierks Bentley concert and ended up getting a shotgun of beer on stage with them. And I now have, and I'm going to, when I get my man cave set up, I got a Dierks Bentley autographed guitar in my basement.
Fuck yeah. That's
So like,
fucking amazing.
what's some of that stuff for you? Like, are you into collecting anything? Or hobbies or outside of wrestling and coaching? What's a day in the life like for you?
Oh man, I wish it was better for you, bro. But a lot of my life is involved with pro wrestling, right? So,
Oh,
like, I
nothing
really,
wrong with that.
yeah, I just without coaching, it's producing for the wrestling show that we have here for FSW, and then I just work a 9 to 5, like a regular 9 to 5, right, to try to supplement a lot of after COVID what that life looks like, right?
Yeah.
And then I just super enjoy my downtime, like I have a dog, I go to the park, I do that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, and movies
Yeah.
and shit like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't really collect, even though I think that's like really cool. Like a lot of people that I know are either they got just about everything, whether it's Funko Pop stuff or autograph
Yeah.
things, and I think we need things like that because you just never know, right? You just never know what's
Yeah.
going to end up being super cool. And then to the idea of you having a man cave is dope, right? Because I think you should definitely set up all of these things in your stuff
Oh yeah.
within your own personal space with that. So yeah, like I'm kind of normal when it comes to just having like everyday hobbies of hiking or out to with food with people and friends and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But my free time is pretty consumed with if I'm not like wrestling on the weekends, I have something to do with pro wrestling. Whether if we do have a show, I'm down there writing, producing, or I'm helping talent with coaching. And that's kind of, I don't know, that's what kind of gets me going. Yeah, and then
No.
gym, of course. Yeah, you kind of have to have this like gym thing for being a pro wrestler. I probably wouldn't go as often if I didn't have to pro wrestle,
Yeah.
but it keeps me going, or as far as like healthy, or having a lifestyle. So yeah, man, that's kind of the gist of it. Yeah, I think it's great that you're that fucking guitar is awesome, bro.
Don't trust me that I swear the next day when I woke up and I saw that propped up against my wall where I was living at the time, I'm like, holy shit, that actually happened.
Yeah, it's wild what just what one night of an experience can do for you, right? So I mean, you just really never know. Like I've had a lot of good experiences in pro wrestling. Like I got to wrestle my hero. Like Liger is my hero, bro. Like if I was 19-year-old kid watching pro wrestling on the couch, and like I always wanted. I was really a Japanese mark, so to speak. Like I really liked Super J Cup stuff. So so that was what kind of geared me to how I wanted to wrestle. And so fast forward, I get to do a seminar with him, so I get to talk to him, and that was a good experience. Then 10 years later, after that, I get to wrestle with him, and like I'm okay with pro wrestling giving me a lot of cool experiences in my life, man. So to have cool experiences, you just never fucking know what can happen. So it's good.
No, I very similar with the show. When I started, I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk to some of the guys that I actually know here in the area, and then it all with me reaching out to some of the more nationally known talent. I had retweeted something, B-Boys wanting to get booked all throughout. Like he's like going full bore.
He's going hard. Yeah, he's going hard.
And the SATs actually liked it, and I'm like, holy shit. I remember because they had just faced off against the Briscoes and the Hardys. I'm like, oh my God. And then like I just reached out and I'm like thinking in my head, I am so getting turned down for this. They are not. And then boom, they were my first one I ever did over Zoom. And now I'm actually, the day after my birthday coming up here, I'm actually interviewing them again.
Cool.
And I've got to interview the promoter of Warrior Wrestling twice now, actually getting to go to a show where at the Fan Fest, I actually got to interview one of my personal favorites who, Jonah, I got to interview him. And I mean, he's faced off against some of my other personal favorites. Speaking of Japan, Tomohiro Ishii. Like I am such a huge fan of his.
Absolutely, bro.
When they had a match over there on Impact not all that long ago, I remember I specifically told him I think I renewed my subscription to Impact Plus because I'm like, I told him I did that for that match because I'm like, I have to see that. And like, I'm getting all these opportunities that like somebody told me that, people that I'm relatively new to the game, they're like, yeah, most people as new to the game as you don't get the people that, you're getting. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I kind of literally just go into it thinking I'm going to get turned down. And I'm just like, you know what? Here, let's see if it sticks.
Yeah, it's the best, bro. That's how you can't hit a home run without swinging the bat, bro. I love it.
Oh yeah, yep. And like they've told me, and like I've told a lot of other people, I'll never know the answer if I don't at least try to ask
Yeah.
And you know, I like I mentioned a little bit ago, I have two categories that I like to kind of round off the show with.
Okay.
One, I used to call it a speed round, but to be honest, it never got to be that quick. So I just changed it to a name game where like I name some people and you give me your thoughts on them. I tailor it to people you've actually shared a ring with in one way or another. Um, might have been quite frequently, maybe not so much. I surprised a guy once where I named off a couple relatively big names that they had only ever wrestled once each. And he's like, holy shit, you impressed me with that one. But
Cool.
my first one to get off my little rant there, Atticus Cogar.
Oh man. Listen, that dude is a workhorse. He's underrated because a lot of people like he does get a buzz, right? You know who he is and what he does, but he doesn't get the stuff I think his character, his personality deserves, and then his work rate is fucking phenomenal.
Oh
I
yeah.
had such a good fluid match with him. There was like a lot of good chemistry, and what sucked, I think, because we both had like a fucking crazy weekend going into that weekend. So it was kind of wild for both of us because we're both trying to save ourselves from not going as not like we're trying to be like less than anything, but we
Yeah.
both had matches. Not he had two that day, and then another one the night that very night. So we went out there with the intention of just having something really solid, and I thought the crowd really enjoyed it. We did have a very good crowd. Joe, Joe is an asshole because I was like, he's like, man, I got you working Addison Cougar, bro, and I was just like, it's Addison Cougar. And do you know this dude has skewers, right? Do you know that this is what he's known for, is putting skewers in the head? And he's like, yeah, no, it's just going to be a regular match. I made sure that there will be no skewers. I said, all right, man, we'll see. So going into the match, I knew full well that there's going to be skewers in my head at some point, and I came to terms with it before that night going in.
Yeah.
So when I showed up, he was like, "So skewers," and I was like, "Well, I don't really do that, but I guess this is what we're gonna do." And he's like, "Okay, because this is my thing. This is what we got to get into." And I was like, "All right, man. All right, this is what we're getting into." And not that I had a fucking choice. I'm not gonna lie, man. That dude's a legit motherfucker. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy Addis a lot, and I think he's very underrated. It sucks. I wish he had more notoriety, and he will. He will at some point. I don't know when. I don't know where.
Oh
But
yeah.
that motherfucker is really good.
Oh yeah. No, I remembered I bought, well, before the kind of, I guess, falling out he had with GCW, I bought that show that was main evented with the barbed
Harrison.
wire match between him and Jordan Oliver. That was, I mean,
Amazing.
that match in and of itself was amazing. Next name on the list, Jimmy Jacobs.
Oh, me and Jimmy have had quite a few encounters. One in Portland, as I was the sharp dressed man, Remy Marcel, Afro, and then recent. And we had a lot of stints in backstage stuff because he was a writer for WWE and he's like talent relations for Impact and stuff like that. So he's been in my life quite a bit. Jimmy's probably one of the most like intelligent minds of pro wrestling, right? While he's super eccentric, a lot of the things that he comes up with off the top of his head can kind of make you as a pro wrestler or a talent. So he's really, really has a lot of inspiration to his thought process.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy his creative mind. Jimmy's one of the most creative people I know in pro wrestling for sure.
Oh yeah, no,
Very, very creative. Yeah, that's the word I'd be associate Jimmy with. Very
oh yeah,
creative.
definitely. He definitely has a great mind for, I mean, like you said, creative guy, has a lot of great ideas, and he's, I mean, been a part of some pretty historic things with, all the way back to, you know, ROH days. Um, Next guy on the list, Willie Mack.
I fucking love Willie, man. Me and Willie been running a while, man. You know, like me and Willie have tagged before. We tagged in a tag team match in Mesquite, and we both had afros at the time, so Joe thought it'd be funny if we called ourselves the Afro DGX. But again, I wrestled Willie on the Mecca a few months ago, and we were the opening match. You know, like it just goes to show you what kind of card the Mecca is putting out. If like me and Willie are the opening match, and Willie is just one of the most, I don't know, like his charisma in the ring is kind of unmatched because
Yeah.
there's just something about him. Like I there's a couple of dudes when I get in the ring with these guys, you can kind of almost feel their it factor. And Willie's like one. It's like Willie and Kevin and Alex, like Hammerstone. Like these are guys who you legitimately feel like their it factor while you're in there with them.
Yeah.
So Willie's also got one of the hardest fucking chops. So he was very nice to me. Only gave me a few, and then but yeah, he hits heavy, man. And what's really kind of crazy is he really doesn't have like a down gear. Like he's always in gear to take it to the next level. Which for somebody his size, you really don't. A lot of people don't understand that,
Hell yeah.
And he's a really phenomenal worker. And I've seen him go against the best, you know, and being in there personally with him, I can understand why he gets what he gets out of the business. And he's another underrated talent, man. I wish he had more notoriety, but even with the notoriety he does have, it's way more than deserved for sure.
Oh yeah. No, he's put on some of my favorite matches, and when you talk about his chops, he definitely has those that, good grief, like you watch him chop a guy and you feel it through the TV. You're like, oh,
It's a lot worse in person, bro. Let me tell you.
I can imagine. I can only imagine. Next one, we've kind of talked a little bit about both of these guys, and I'm gonna put them both in on this last one here. Jushin Thunder Liger and Rocky Romero.
Yeah, Liger's, man, he's magical, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like I've never seen anything like it before in my entire life. You know, I got to witness him without his mask as a human being, and then I got to work with him inside the ring. And I knew going in there I was going to let this 50-year-old man, who God only knows what what he's doing as far as his life, but I was way more open to the idea that he was going to punch me in the face, and I had no problem doing. I was like, I'm going to let this motherfucker showtime me right in the face, and I do not give a fuck. And he's just brilliant, man. It was just a brilliant performance. He's super magical. It was everything I wanted it to be. Jack was, I don't know if he was like, I wouldn't say he was nervous or any of that stuff, but or whether Jack just kind of knew that I was like such a big mark for him, but he let me have a lot of interaction with him. And I think like it fell on me to have a lot of this interaction with him. So like when it came to like the Liger moves, like I was taking the Liger bomb, I was taking all of the surfboard, I was taking all of these things, the showtate to the face. So these things he was running his greatest hits on me, and I was way more than open for all of that stuff. I was all about it. And Rocky is just like, he's teacher, bro. You know, he'll always be teacher to me, right? And he's done some really magical things. When I was young in my career, we were 23 breaking in, and we did a lot of stupid shit. One time we got our car towed because we didn't know how to park in LA. And so Rocky bailed our car out because he was fat paid making New Japan money, and they took us out to eat a lot, and so they took very good care of us. And it sucks because once we left the dojo, all of those things kind of went different ways. You know, we all went different ways, and then we came back. But he'll always be teacher. He'll always be an amazing athlete in the ring. Like we got to work. I got to work him against Liger, and then me and Jack got to work him against Kobe Carino, which is Steve Carino's kid. We had a good match there too, man. And so for me, Rocky's always going to be like that one, you know, teacher kind of student thing when I get in the ring with him, for sure.
Oh, definitely. And I know, I mean, as far as Rocky Romero goes, I was lucky enough when I was in San Diego, I got to see him live a few times, and, you know, seeing everything he's accomplishing there with New Japan and everything. And I mean, Jushin Thunder Liger, just the name speaks for itself when you're talking about next and last category I have, kind of round off the show, random question round. Some might be wrestling related, some might not be. You answer how you see fit. First off, favorite drink, alcoholic or non?
So they got Simply's raspberry lemonade. I'm all about that shit, man. I love it. I could probably drink gallons if they didn't stop me. So that's the thing. I don't particularly drink unless it's socially. So I'm a whiskey and Coke, or just a straight whiskey kind of guy. Crown and Coke is what I'll usually go for. But so any whiskey-ish as far as like hard alcohol. And I like beer. I like to drink a couple beers too, man. I'm not opposed to doing some beers. Back when I was back home, it was Yingling. Out here, it's a little bit more like Red Stripe and stuff like that. So that's kind of the go-tos for the beer. But yeah, those are my favorite drinks.
Oh yeah, no, I'm kind of, well, I've been told I need to switch the diet. They don't sponsor my show. I ain't giving them shit. But otherwise, you know, for myself, yeah, I don't drink too terribly much, but beer, or I got a bottle of The Rock's tequila. I got a couple of
Sure.
But I'm telling you, you put that shit in a margarita, you can barely tell there's any damn alcohol in it. So you pound a few of those and you're on the damn floor. Next one, we kind of talked a little bit about, you know, watching movies. What would you say are your top, will go 3?
Wow. So I obviously like Pulp Fiction, and any Tarantino is kind of the thing. But I guess I'm kind of more of an into directors. And then anything Oliver Stone touches is kind of a thing, right? So I'm kind of a big Oliver Stone fan as well. So like Any Given Sunday, and you know, JFK, and all these things that go into it. And so and then like as a kid, I was always Top Gun was like my favorite movie. But I can like these kind of fall into like an 80s category too for me, because like it's like Top Gun and Back to the Future. Like these are all the movies that I would like go to if I'm like either falling asleep or if I just want to have a good time. I like Scott Pilgrim a lot. You're right. I like that motherfucking movie is pretty great. So these are the movies that I'll probably just sit and watch over and over and over again, and without any like real problem. I enjoy like movies like The Social Network, you know, because while it's about Facebook, just the way they did it and the way it was like the cinematography, I'm big on the cinematography. I really like. I think if I wasn't going to be a pro wrestler, I probably do like or produce like a lot of vignettes. It's probably why I was such a big fan of like Lucha Underground. I really enjoyed like Lucha Underground, right? Like I thought what they were doing was like one of if I was going to work or if I had a choice to pick a place to work for wrestling, I wanted Lucha Underground. I think like their concepts, and then like Krista Joseph. I don't know if you know a lot of the backstage stuff, but Krista Joseph was like he's a really good, like, he's written for everybody, but just what they ended up doing for their writing was fucking phenomenal. Like I really like MLW right now. Like MLW is like one of my favorites promotions going right now. So while everybody talks about AEW and ROH and Impact, I'm kind of watching a lot of MLW. I love Hammer, right? Hammer's my boy and shit. But I also fucking think like Jacob Fatu's like underrated, right? Dude is a fucking maniac, and their heavyweight title match is bananas. It's that fucking good. Like I felt like it was so good that a lot of people slept on it. You know, Hammer almost rolls his ankle and breaks his ankle in that match, and it's early on, so you're thinking like, damn, how can this motherfucker survive it? And he goes to the entire fucking match. It's insane, bro. So like, I like MLW. I think people need to kind of wake up to some Major League every now and then. And please, you know, Court, if you're listening, or if you talk to Court, I know you might be able to get Court show. So you get Court and Warriors okay too. So you can put my name in the old Warrior mouth as well, man. But I really enjoy MLW. Warrior is we have a guy out here who does a lot of cinematography for him, and his name is Mikey, and he runs like Too Sweet to Delete promotions, and he does a lot of the video packages. He does filming for Warrior, but he does our video packages, and he's fucking good, man. It's really, really good. So, yeah, man, those would be it, man. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I will definitely. I mean, I hope to talk to Cord here sometime soon. I probably need a little help getting in contact there, but I do talk every so often to Steve, the promoter there at Warrior. So I mean, I'll pass stuff along. But I mean, we talked. You talk about MLW there. I know. I mentioned I consider them friends. The SATs, they're actually jumping back in there with MLW, and I'm like, okay, I'd been meaning to, you know, start paying attention to them, and I'm like, well, damn, now that they're getting back in there, I might really need to make a point at this.
Yeah, you should, man. MLW is kind of like a sleeper promotion. While they have a lot of, like, you know, they have Enzo and shit like that, and I get all that, but like Casey Navarro is really fucking good. One person who probably doesn't get a lot of notoriety, but Danny Limelight, right? Danny Limelight's good on the stick, and I really thought his tag partner Slice Boogie, he's also out of Santino's, and that dude is fucking phenomenal. He's like one of my favorite workers on the West Coast, but he's such a dark horse because nobody knows about him. Nobody, he just. And plus, Danny Limelight gets all the limelight. I suppose that's just not just a gimmick. But then you have like Jacob Fatu, man, and like I don't even know who plays the Max. Is it Mads Kruger, like the giant dude in the Contra, man. Anyway, that dude's cool too, bro. Like I really enjoyed the whole roster as a whole, and like their ladies division is starting to kind of get up there too. So it's really nice to see a lot of these promotions start to kind of take off, and MLW for me is a big one. And you know, again, Warrior is good too, because Warrior also is like right there with that Defy. It's like there's only a few of them that are out there now. Like Warrior's definitely getting a lot of notoriety with like Willow Spray holding the title and shit like that. It's good, man. Yeah, and they put on great shows.
Oh, definitely. I consider that one Warrior 22 when I was there in St. Louis, out of the ones that I've been to live, hands down, top to bottom, best one I've ever been to. And I mean, you brought up Casey Navarro. I got to meet him there, and now he's their champ.
Yep.
So he's doing some big things. Next off, with a lot of traveling, what is your must-have travel item. Like you need that with you.
Bro, the pods, baby. You gotta have the pods with you, right? That's the go-to, man. And then, like, obviously the neck pillow, second, right? Those are the two I have to have with me. I can sacrifice a neck pillow with like having like a sweatshirt or something like that. But if I can have earphones in, it cuts down a lot of people's talking to. So you can be like, you can pretend like you don't even hear them if you don't feel like talking. But also it kind of gives you the freedom to kind of bury yourself into whatever else you got going on, whether it's your movie or any of that stuff. So these are the go-to items for sure on travel.
Oh yeah, definitely. I got not the Apple brand, but I got my own little ones that I always take with me. And I also got a pair of like over the ear Bluetooth ones. Like those two are with me everywhere. So I totally get that. Craziest in-match moment.
I mean, I just had one not too long ago. Me and G were going at it pretty good, and Greg is really into my gimmick. Like he's just a part of like trying to make me a better person as I am, right, when it comes to being in the ring. So we had this spot where he was like, man, I need you to like kind of cross the line. You know, I want you to, you've been crossing the line a lot. And so I feel like this would be a good point. So I was like, I have this idea, you know, I've been watching a lot of Braveheart. Let's like try to let me chop off your head with the spade of the shovel, man. What do you think about that? And he was just like, oh, that would be cool. Oh. So I put his head in the chair, and to his credit, Greg is a fucking magician, because I for real thought I was going to chop off his head. I mean, I don't know how he moved. It was the very last second. And so that's probably been the craziest in-ring feeling that I've ever had. I don't think I've ever gotten into where I've lost control in the ring. Like I know a lot of people have these like horror stories, but I've had a lot of like professional career where I've never gotten into. I've never had anybody shoot on me. I've never had to shoot on anybody. Everything's always been pretty great. I've had a couple bad things, but I always feel like that's kind of comes with the territory of being a pro wrestler, right? I've got dropped on my head. I've had some stuff up. I wear contacts, so sometimes it poke me in the eye and my contact lens will fly out. So I have to finish the match with one eye. But for the most part, everything's been super professional, and it's just comes to these like weird instances where potentially could end really bad, and I don't understand why it does not. So that was probably the craziest moment. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've witnessed a couple crazy ones, like a injury where a guy had to get stretchered out. I know a wrestler I know that I actually made him my best man. He was in a multi-person ladder match, and he had this guy up on his back, like his head down here and holding his legs up. And they had a ladder bridged in between the ring apron and the guardrail. And like the ladder, for the people watch the YouTube version, literally just went
in half. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It was nuts. Last but not least, best advice you could give to somebody wanting to get into wrestling?
So this is going to be with anything, whether it's wrestling or podcasting or anything. You have to 110% stay authentic. Stay authentic to who you are, what you're trying to do, to your craft or your creativity. And then you're going to suck. Everybody sucks the very first time out, man. It's not everybody sucks, man. It's it's just how it is. But the more you do it, the better you become, the more comfortable you become. And then you just never know what can take off. You never know where this journey can go. So there was a TJ Perkins has it tattooed on his chest. But at the dojo, there was a road poem by Inoki. And it's like, you have to start the road or there will be no road. So basically you just have to start a road for yourself, stay authentic, and then you just never know where that road's going to take you, man. And I think like that's my best advice is start it, be authentic, and keep going. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that perfect. That could go for a lot of things, like you mentioned.
Everything.
Oh yeah, could go for a lot of things. Like you mentioned, podcasting with me. Like, yeah, I'll admit some of my early interviews probably that probably part of the reason why I've still yet to actually watch back one of my episodes. But I feel like I've been slowly finding my rhythm.
Yeah.
Getting everything together, and I'm getting some I'm getting some traction. I'm not like, let's say Sean Rassap, Denise Salcedo level with their big stuff they're doing, but I'm gaining subscribers and listeners every week. So I mean, you got to start somewhere.
Man, you're just not there yet, but who knows? You know what I'm saying? Like, who knows? You just keep doing your thing, bro. I didn't even know you had a podcast until you reached out to me, and I'm always up for a good podcast and talking about my story. I try to not keep it, especially podcasting stuff. I think nobody wants to hear me being character. Like
Yeah.
that's why you go to the wrestling show. If you want to see my character, you're trying to see what my story is, and then you pull a lot of genuine things out of people. So you just keep doing you, bro. I think you're doing a great job, man. I can't wait to see or hear the SAT one. I was going to listen to the Greg Sharp one when I get a chance. So like, I feel like there's going to be a lot of good things coming your way as long as you just stay fucking consistent, my dude.
Oh, that's what I try to do, and I already got another. I consider it a pretty great opportunity where I might actually be able to be a, somewhat of a backstage interviewer at a show. The Nebraska Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, which I'll plug them right now. They are having their 2022 induction night / wrestling show that they're also going to have. And the guy funny story, my wife and I actually met at a wrestling show that a mutual friend of ours runs. We convinced him to get ordained, and he officiated, and he's actually one of the inductees. And I interviewed the directors of the Hall of Fame, and they said, "Oh man, you should come out to our induction night." And I'm like, "Okay,
cool."
So I got that going, and the SATs. I got let's see, who's another big one I got coming up. 1/3 of the, well, I don't know if they're going to continue with it. The 1/3 of the Ring of Honor 6-man tag champs, Dutch, got him. So like, I'm excited.
Cool, man. Yeah, just keep rolling, bro. I know a lot of the guys out here on the West would love to fucking talk to you too. So, and they're all really nice dudes, man. So reach out to all of them, man. We're all wanting to get our story out there, and especially since you already know a lot of them and are familiar. Like any Santino's guys would be a good time to fucking talk to those guys. They're fucking a blast. And I'm sure you could probably even reach out to Joey.
Oh yeah, I have. Although him being the busy guy that he is, it's been a bit of a message tag, I guess. No, not blaming him at all. He's got a pretty important gig there. But that is about all I have.
Thanks, bro.
Definitely want to give you a chance to plug social media and stuff, and like, where can people find you so they can also have their eyes on you?
It's all at 86er Remy Marcel. That's 86er ER Remy Marcel. Everything, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm mostly on Instagram. Only tweet like GIFs. And then follow Future Stars of Wrestling. I have a couple of projects with Mass Republic coming up, so follow Mass Republic if you can. There's also a promotion out of Arizona called PCW. They do two promotions, a sister promotions in Arizona, and then the major promotions in California with Pacific Coast. So those guys are doing a lot. They're running a lot of big shows. So PCW is on Pluto. I think FSW is eventually going to be on Pluto. So keep your eyes to the Pluto. Are you familiar with Pluto?
Definitely, yes. I am.
So So they got that wrestling channel, man. So I guess like a lot of the
Definitely.
promotions out here are gonna get up on that. And that's it, man. That's all for me. Just the best thing you could probably do for me, aside from connecting with my social media, is stay current with FSW, Future Stars of Wrestling out of Vegas, because that's not only is it the home promotion, but it's my baby too. You know what I'm saying? So we do a lot of good production out of there. And Joe, while he's the head booker and the owner and all that good stuff, you know, a lot of the guys out here kind of pour our heart and soul into that promotion.
yeah.
So any support for that company is a support for us locally. So we
Definitely.
appreciate you. And I appreciate you having me on, bro. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me, and best of luck in everything there with FSW.
Thanks, brother.